Hello, folks, and welcome to Stick Together, the very first episode that we are producing together in cooperation with Ben Hine of Zero Pucks Given. And I am just so stoked about our very first guest. He's just a very special man in my life, River Rymsha. I'm not going to say you're retired yet, but River Rymsha, who last year played for the Cardiff Devils in the Elite Ice Hockey League and has a pretty amazing hockey career to talk about, and a pretty amazing early career. And River, again, depending on what you are with regards to your hockey career, how we discussed the third period is going to be unique experience. Just to break things down, River, first period, this podcast is going to be broken down into three periods. First period, we're going to be talking about what hockey was like for you, how you fell in love with the game. Second period is going to be about your professional career. And then, just as I mentioned, the third period is about life after hockey. But I'm really interested to know how this one goes with you, knowing that you are where you are in this period of your life. Dude, thank you so much for joining us on this first ever episode. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's been great getting to know you for the past 6 months, and I'm just blessed to be the first one to air. It's been crazy seeing you come, kind of getting this off the ground running, and I'm just happy to help out and spread the word and do what I can to help.
And that's an awesome motive to have, is to help. And I think we've discovered that by telling our stories, we can help people. And knowing that there are lots of hockey podcasts out there that are targeted for, a lot of people say, like Chicklets will say they're hockey podcasts by players for players, but probably the majority of their audience are fans. This we have decided to release just in the Stick Together Tribe Facebook page for now, to make it exclusive just for hockey players. And it was something, River, that was really close to me in terms of the fact that we can tell stories now where we literally know that our audience are just hockey players, either that are still playing or guys who have hung up the skates. How does that feel? How does that resonate with you?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's when you started talking about that to me back in January, it was something that I was really drawn to. I think what you're trying to do is special and is very needed in not just like the hockey community, but um, in life. So to just be able to, kind of be a part of something from the beginning, kind of see it grow. It's been fun to see and be a part of on my end, and I'm sure you're even more excited than I am.
I am really excited. We're going to drop the puck in a second, but I first just have to acknowledge our producer, who's also more than a producer because he's a buddy, Ben Hyde, who's come along from Zero Pucks Given. Man who's extremely busy, and he's volunteered his time to help produce these. Ben, I just have to acknowledge you and say thank you so much for showing up and doing what you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's okay, mate. Welcome to be very glad to be part of it. Obviously, when we spoke, we spoke on the group about me coming on board with you to help you do this. And I'm really excited to be a part of it. Really interested to hear the stories of your guys' lives in hockey.
And as a producer, Ben, you can chime in anytime. Me and River are going to get into a conversation. Me and the guests are getting into conversations, but please feel free to make a contribution because it is extremely valued. So with saying that, folks, we are going to drop the puck for the first period. River, you never had to take any face-offs.
I sure
I was
did.
actually pretty
I
good at it.
I sure did though.
Yeah.
I finished my pro career 4 for 5 in the circle.
Did you?
There's actually a pretty funny story about that, but
We'll,
I'm sure.
we'll we'll get into it. We'll get into it. Ben, let's drop the puck, buddy.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, am I waiting a second or is the puck dropped?
I could put the edit in there. That's absolutely fine.
It's fine. We don't even need to. Let's start it. River. Uh, I actually heard of your father who played hockey over in the UK for the Bracknell Bees. You obviously come from a hockey background. What was hockey like growing up for you? When did you first see it? How did you first experience hockey
Yeah,
in River's life?
I was extremely fortunate. My dad was still playing when I was born, and he was in the thick of his European career. He'd started in North America, played college hockey at Western, made his debut with the Quebec Nordiques, um, and like probably half of the population in the hockey world, they decided to go over to Europe eventually. And I was privy to be around. And my first memories are running around the rinks in Germany, going to daycare, having my little stick, and I'm in his office right now, and I can
Mhm.
toward my left, I see it. I see my first stick, and there's pictures of me running around the ice in my boots, and it's fun hearing stories about even at 4 years old, like knowing where every player's stick went and what hand they were and putting the curves together and you know you would think with the kind of the hockey background and everybody in my family playing you would think it's forced but it's such a natural gravitation to love um, that it was just something that I knew right away that it was something I was good at and something that I loved and something I wanted to eventually make a career.
That's really incredible that it was like something that, as you describe it, it's like almost like you melted into hockey right from the beginning, or you grew into it. I know for me, I'm going to be telling this story over and over again. My first experience of ever being on the ice was, in a frozen barn in southern Saskatchewan. And I mean barn, I mean a barn that was frozen with water inside of it. There was like pieces of hay that were coming up through the ice. And I was on a pair of bob skates. My dad couldn't skate; he was an Englishman, and he was out on the ice in his shoes, just kind of like pulling me along. And I'm on these bob skates, bob skates that you strap to your
Oh,
shoes, right?
oh yeah.
And I'm just stepping along, and I fall on the ice. And I just remember putting my hands on the ice, and it felt so unnatural that I just started to cry. And I was like 4 or 5 years old, and for me, there was nothing natural about it. I felt like all along it was like this was something that was quite strange. Can you describe a little bit more what it was like to just know, like having a knowing at such a young age that hockey was in your blood?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually kind of funny. I loved hockey, but hated skates. So my dad said I didn't really start skating until I was older, and he ended up making a little bit of an adjustment with my brother when he was born. He would put my brother on his skates and let him walk around the apartment and on the carpet just to get used to being in hockey skates. I was happy to be in my boots with my stick and slapping it around because when I was skating, I'd always fall. So I never wanted to put the skates on. And then, like I said, it wasn't until my dad retired and I moved home, and I started playing like organized, like house hockey for like Timbits or whatever. It wasn't until then where I was like, okay, like this is fun.
When did you realize that you were like actually following your dad around, before you actually went back, being in different countries at such a young age? What was that like? What was that experience like being so young and
Yeah, I mean, obviously being so young, there's a lot that I don't remember. And my first memories aren't really until his Crefeld years, so I would have been like 3. Um, and just I remember like being able to come home when I started like kindergarten, and it was almost like a one up on all the kids because I was like, I grew up in Germany, like what about you? So I was kind of like a cocky prick about it even when I was 5. But no, it was just something that was a part of my identity, and it was something that I was fortunate enough to be a part of, and it made my dad my role model from an early age, just seeing how far he was able to take hockey. and trying to emulate everything that he had done.
When you say emulate, what were the things that you looked at him and you saw, I want to be like that? And yeah, tell me that one first.
Yeah, for me, he'll say it too. It's he always prided himself on having a hard slap shot. And I don't know if when the minute I was able to like understand how to take a slap shot, my goal was to always be able to shoot the puck harder than him.
Mm.
And then obviously he played with a tougher brand. It was obviously a different era. When it comes to the physicality and the violence of the game. But and so kind of as that's evolved, just try to form the version of toughness that's so allowed in today's game um and just kind of take those two things as being being a shooting skating player.
Now, those are the things that you wanted to emulate. And I know it's hard when we look at our dads, but were there things that you were seeing in your dad that you're like, I love that about him. I want to have a harder shot than him. But then, like, when did you start to develop like some identity of your own with hockey and go, maybe I'm going to branch out and do something a little bit different, or he does it like this, and this is what I'm going to make sure I do different. Apart,
Mhm.
yeah.
Um, to be honest, I don't think it was until probably like when you start checking, to be honest. Because once the hitting is thrown into the game, um, the speed of things at which have to happen increases so fast. So, um, I kind of gravitated towards being able to make a pass under pressure, and it was something that I just really worked on, which was being able to pick up pucks in space and finding sticks. And that's obviously not would have some arguments in the car or on the phone after being like, I think you could have shot that a little bit and be like,
Mm.
well, the stick was there, Dad. I'm shooting for the stick. It was a better chance. And he was always like, you got to let the bomb go sometimes. You got to let it go. I'm like, yeah, but I need to get it through. I said, tried the bomb 3 times. It got blocked all three. So I need to get this one through than that.
That's interesting. I want to get into how shots have changed over the years, but in these early years, River, what uh, I don't know. For me, there was a time where there was a lot of play involved, playing out in frozen tennis courts, frozen ice rinks with my buddies. With the frozen tennis ball, the puck would just hurt too much because it was so cold. But there was like so much around hockey and playing that before the organized of the Timbits, and for us it was like weepies and peewees. Um, there was like this element of play, and
Mhm.
when I think back to hockey in my early times before it actually got organized, are some of my fondest memories. Did you
Right.
have times like that where you're like, oh man, I just used to like go out on frozen rinks and just play with my buddies and just play pickup games and even make up games?
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah.
All the time. I mean, I was fortunate enough where we'd help. I mean, how much can a 7, 8 year old really help out when it comes to building a rink in your backyard? But I'd like to think I helped out where I could. But no, my dad would make us a rink in the backyard every year and countless hours just racing home from school to get on the ice with my brother and just playing, honestly, just playing one-on-one against one another until it was dark out, or at the time I think we were really into like American Idol, so we'd come racing in for American Idol. And it's just, and that's the beauty of having a brother so close in age that also took hockey as seriously as I did, and it made for some fun moments, and then also some tears because things obviously between two brothers can get pretty competitive, and someone is always cheating when they lose.
Is it always the brother?
It's
It's never
always
you.
no. I mean, you got to
It's
cheat. You got to take what it takes to win. You got to know.
the first time that you mentioned your brother. Just got married, right?
Just got married. Just had the best man speech and everything. It was
Yeah.
great.
And what's the age difference with you and Drake?
2 years. 2 years. He's
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 younger than you, right?
yeah. He's turning 26 in August, and then I'll be 28 in August.
Yeah. And what? So that you're the first guy who I've talked to, who had a brother at such a close age. Actually, no. there was a couple more. I think, but I know your relationship with him. So this is what I'm trying to get into. It was like I know how close you guys are and how like you guys have got this really strong bond. Like how competitive it was it? When did the competition between you guys start? How much and how like I want to think about the joy of you guys running home after school and be like, let's get on the ice and let's have some fun. And what were those early memories like? Just having a brother that you could go. I suppose you wouldn't pick on him because you're such a nice guy. Um, but what was that dynamic like? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just hockey. It was everything. It was football in the yard. It was one-on-one basketball. It was mini sticks. It was video games. It was everything. And it wasn't until we probably even in his first it probably wasn't until the last like 2, 3 years where every summer we would train together. He found a new trainer, like I said, about 2 years ago. But up until then, um, we did, like I said, we just did everything together. And I was the older one, so I got my license first. So it started where we'd be driving to either the gym or the rink at 6 in the morning for skates. And, you
Mhm.
know, like usually at 6 o'clock in the morning, not really a lot of words spoken. And there's more than half the times my brother would take his pillow and his blanket and sleep on me on the way there. But like looking back on it, like it's just being somebody that's there, even when they're not doing anything, even when they're sleeping, just like having that accountability to one another to try to get better and to pursue this as the best we can. And we all have good days and bad days, and there'd be days where I needed pushing from him and vice versa. And it was great that we're able to have that bond together.
What are your early memories of organized hockey? Like when you actually had to try out for a team and make like triple A teams or double A teams if you didn't get or if you got cut. What do you because like I suppose most of my time in minor hockey I was playing double A. I got cut a couple of times from triple A and it was horrible that feeling of like being the last couple of picks on a triple A midget team and then getting cut. And I can really remember that it hurts a lot. Um, which is funny because you think about your minor hockey career and the moments that I remember, the moments that hurt, like getting cut. What was it like? What was it minor hockey career like? Like how did you develop through that? Were you always playing in the top tier, or were the times where you had some heartbreaks?
No, I mean, there was definitely heartbreaks, and everybody has different versions of heartbreak. I remember I always played at a triple A level when it kind of started in house hockey. Like I said, like that Timbits. Um, I like to say that was my peak in hockey, scoring 9, 10 goals a game. And eventually it will get better, and
Yeah.
I don't even think I scored 10 in 10 years. Um, but just being able to and then kind of moving through the ranks and being a part of the first Little Caesars team for my age and playing for Little Caesars my entire minor hockey from squirt all the way up to midget. It was that place was a family to me. And I think Little Caesars as an organization for giving me my best moments. Like not a lot of kids have the chance to call an NHL rink their home, and I did that 3 times, three
Yeah.
different three different seasons.
Explain
Yeah.
explain the Little Caesar setup because it's something that people they've heard the name.
Yeah,
They've
so
heard of.
so Little Caesars ownership is the Ilitch family, and the Ilitch family owns the Red Wings and the Tigers. And so Little Caesars and the Red Wings have kind of always been attached at the hip. And there's 3 instances where you get to play at Joe Louis, where you have your own locker room, and that's when you're 12 and you go to Quebec year, and then both your midget seasons. So with you and your brother playing within one or but the same organization, like 3 times a week, that meant I was there for my practice and Drake's practice at the Joe, like in the running around underneath the seats, running up above the scoreboard, like just unlimited at like treating an NHL rink as your playground, like and then getting close with the Zamboni driver, and the next thing you know, you're shoveling the ice in intermissions during the games. And like hockey's given me so many cool life experiences growing up that um, if it wasn't for hockey and Little Caesars, then there's no way any of that would have been possible.
I just, as you were describing running around the Joe, under this like seats and stuff, like I can't even imagine, because that's one of my memories too, is like hanging out in Saskatoon at the old barn there. Now this is way before your time, but when Saskatoon, the Blades, they played in this old barn. It wasn't a real barn. It was just that they called it the barn in downtown Saskatoon. And it was one of the most unique places. It's where like Wendell Clark, and that's where he got drafted from. An amazing year in the 90s, in the 80s, amazing few years. And I remember like going under the stands and like kind of wading your way through popcorn that had fallen through, the bleachers, and the smells, and like trying to find pucks that had like come through and warm up and everything, and you'd like be loading pockets up with pucks from warm up, and just hitting your head on things because you shouldn't be under there, hitting your head on the
The locker
yeah,
room.
yeah, but just the smells too. I can vividly remember that, but I can't even imagine, dude, like one of the most iconic arenas in the world for hockey, Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. What were the smells like there?
Like exactly what you what you described. Like there's just an aura in that rink, and you know, been went to a lot of Red Wings games there and played in a lot of my own games there, and also been fortunate enough to run every single step in my gear after a loss, helmet on and everything. Um, which so when you're running up the steps in your full gear and then the next night you're back at the rink for a Wings game, it's kind of like the hell's going on here? This is like not real life.
Well, apart from that relationship you had with your brother, what are some of the relationships you remember in minor hockey?
Like everybody, like I have a coach that Craig Rail, and there's somebody that, and then their family as kind of you get older that that relationship stays, and so now I've just reached out to his son to see if he needs any help coaching Little Caesars this year because he's still in the program. So just and then there's a couple other guys that were my teammates right there with me up until juniors, and um, having a core group of 6, 7 guys that you pretty much grow up with. Those are moments that a lot of our relationships when we get older, they're forged through like, I don't know, kind of going. I like to think that people that I'm closest with are people that I've gone to war with, whether that be on the ice or off the ice. And to kind of go to war, so to speak, with teammates that you're growing up with, it kind of creates a little bit of a bond that you kind of see today, and it's formed at such a young age.
At the beginning of this, you said that you knew hockey was in your blood and you were going to be a hockey player right from the start. How did you want to develop your career? I know you went to Dartmouth for 4 or 5 years, so getting an education was obviously something that was important for you. So was it a sit down with your dad? How were you planning on getting drafted, or what was your career path to your destiny of ultimately playing professional hockey?
Yeah, like you kind of said, school was crucial for me, and um, I know I'm young, but this is still when I was going through it. It's technology probably wasn't at it was even today, and I actually went with the old school route and got the mailing address to all at the time. I think it was like 57 um, at D1 schools, and I emailed all of them a cover letter with like pretty much a hockey like made my own elite prospects essentially and mailed it out to all these schools, um, and then ended up the next year getting drafted in the USHL, um, and going to my first USHL camp at 16, and then that's kind of when I really started talking to a lot of schools. I want to say there was probably at the camp I probably left talking to about 6 or 7 schools, and about 3 or 4 of them turned into offers. And um, like I said, education was always really important to me, and I thrived in the classroom. And I knew that I was always going to an Ivy League school would be a dream of mine. So that kind of was easy. But then it was just between Dartmouth and Princeton, and I fell in love with Dartmouth, and it was the best 4 years of my life. And I'm so like I can't say enough about Dartmouth and Dartmouth hockey and the institution as a whole. It's opened up so many doors for me that um, a kid from Detroit wouldn't have access to.
And on that, I think it's a good way to end the first period because we're going to launch into your pro career now, River. So I'd like to always ask guys at this point, intermissions were something that I have just known over my years in hockey evolve a lot. What guys were doing between intermissions when I played compared to what they do now. And I'm sure some guys sneak off now and do what they did when I was playing, but guys would like sneak off for a cigarette and then a cup of coffee or even sometimes a beer. But what was I know kind of what the Cardiff Devils are like right now. So in terms of intermissions and all the prep and everything like that, because I know a little bit about Pete. But tell me, what is your routine for an intermission break, and between the first and second, and are they different between the second and third?
No, they're not different between the first and the second and the third. I guess in that sense, I'm pretty old school. If it wasn't a very energetic period, grab a coffee. And I always just had a chew. I would just sit back and have a chew and try to take a load off. So I guess that's the modern day equivalent of sneaking off for a cigarette. But like I said, I guess I'm pretty old school in that sense where just give me a can of chew and I'll hang out and get ready to go for the next period.
The chew today though isn't real chew because you guys have all got in the little pouches, dude. It's not real.
Hey,
It's not like my day where it's like real
if
chew.
I'm just if any 1% helps, if I'm justifying putting something like that in my mouth.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I know guys that did like the proper tobacco and they wouldn't even spit. They liked it so much they just swallowed. It's gross. I won't name names.
Pretty easy
Yeah.
going during missions.
River, let's hit the second period, buddy. Ben, let's drop the puck for the second period because I want to talk about your time in Norfolk. You get drafted into the East Coast Hockey League, and you launch yourself into a pro career. What was it like knowing that you like this knowing from a young age that you were going to play professional hockey to all of a sudden signing your first professional contract?
Um, yeah, I mean, it was all pretty. I remember wrapping up my at Miami and I thought maybe there would be some chance to go to an AHL camp or an NHL camp. Ended up getting a call to St. Louis to go play in their rookie tournament in Traverse City. And I had a great tournament. Um, and I was like, wow, like it was kind of like the first time I played against, well, I got to wear an NHL jersey. And I'm out there competing against the best. And um, I did more than hold my own. I kind of thought I was thriving, and that was really reassuring this to have faith in my ability as a player and to see how far I've come. Because my college career wasn't always sunshine and rainbows. There's a lot of ups and downs in there. Getting healthy scratched, kind of try to figure out what kind of player I needed to be. And that took time. I went to college as a true freshman at 18 years old, and there's a lot of learning curves playing against guys that are 25, 26. So it was good to see kind of the 5 years of hard work that I put into my college career kind of starting to get rewarded in the professional side of things, and um, ended up not getting invited to St. Louis camp, and that's when Norfolk was there, and they signed me to a East Coast deal, and it was very exciting because they had a lot of they thought of me pretty highly. They saw me on the power play. They saw me killing penalties, kind of being this two-way player, and that's always what I kind of thought I was be. But in college, I kind of felt like I was pigeonholed a little bit. And so Norfolk giving me that chance to kind of step into the player that I always thought I could be. really helped me kind of set the stage to make the jump over to Europe and really kind of find my groove in Slovakia and take it from there.
You know, River, like there's this like where you're trying to find yourself as a person, as an athlete, this kind of this like I've seen you do work. I've seen you're quite a determined guy, you know, in terms of when you put your mind at something, you know, so I physically have experience in watching you do something like this. I'm interested to know this drive that's inside of you, and are you one of these guys that really gets super excited, you know, about playing pro hockey? Was it something where you go, "Oh, I'm fulfilling my destiny here," or was it something more like these are just stepping stones in my life? Because I have this kind of just this feeling with you, like you've got your life fairly on a flow and a plan. But when I hear guys talk about, you know, their journey into professional hockey, sometimes I don't know, it just feels a little bit different than yours, and I'm just wondering where this kind of this real kind of, I don't know, not like a just this, where's the excitement? Where are you like, wow, I'm playing pro hockey now, and maybe this is going to launch me into a career path, which it did do, where you coming over to Europe.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, especially in that first year, just obviously every kid's dream is to make it to the NHL. In that first year, very gung ho about, oh, if I play well, I'll get called up to the American League, and if I play well in the American League, then who knows? Um, and so just having that, I don't know, I don't want to cut myself short, but just like that unrealistic perspective of like the path to finally get there. And then even that, just even when things weren't going well, because obviously in professional hockey, it's a long season. You're not always going to be playing your best. And I always try to remind myself that even when it wasn't going good, that if Little River that was running around the ice in his boots and in his with his little stick could see me and talk to me, he would just be in awe of where I was and what I've done. And I just always try to remind myself that and just bring it back to kind of a place of not worrying because it's really easy to get caught up in the moment, especially professional hockey. It's very cutthroat job and it's high stress and um, you never really know what day could be especially in the East Coast. I had about 80 teammates. You never really know what day could be your last. And
Mm.
if you get packed up and you're traded across the country, it's just like figure it out. Um, so just being able to kind of look back and put it all into perspective and um, ultimately it was that playing that first year in the coast, it was a good year. It was a good building year. Like I said, I was still fairly young. I was 23. Um, I just knew, and then kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier. I always knew that I wanted to play in Europe, and it was like, okay, like you could start a European career at 24, and by the time you're 27, who knows where you could be, or you could stick around in North America, and maybe you get called up to the American Hockey League for a little bit.
Mm.
But then ultimately, it's like is it just ego that wants you to say, hey, I played in the American League? I just knew that my game was going to translate to Europe, and I knew that there was something I always wanted to do. So might as well just do it now, then and start growing in the career that I want over there.
You know, you mentioned that you were 18 playing against guys who were 22, 23, 24. What was it like you being 23, 24, and knowing that your brother was hot on your heels 2 years behind you?
Me and Drake were very, very different paths. Drake was Drake's always been elite level player and growing up and he made London Knights at 16 and he ultimately ended up breaking his femur in his draft year but he ended up going in the fifth round when he was 19 so we were on very different paths. He was fast tracking and trying to make the LA Kings and I was working towards just trying to grow my brand in Europe and make it to a top league and so we were very very different but we still worked on the same things, and it was just nice having somebody at an elite level, working out with you and training with you
Mm,
and making you better and trying to make him better. And even it might not have been in the backyard, but there's definitely some fuck you matches and at 22 and 24 at a 6 a.m. skate with your skills coach because he thinks
nice.
you checked him and you're like, well, I just wanted to play you hard. And it can, so it's good to see. And it was just, I'd like to think that as much as he helped me, I helped him.
Mm,
So
mm. So, how did the move to Slovakia happen? Like, did you get an agent? Like, how was the track into getting over to Europe and fulfilling
yeah,
that part of your?
it was the COVID year. And the East Coast, I want to say probably like 30% of the teams weren't even playing. And I was already like 1 foot out the door, and I was like, okay, like it's time. So I took an absolute nothing, prove it to yourself, prove it to the world deal for like no money in a Slovakian village of 8,000 people, um, in a country, and definitely not in Detva, where nobody spoke English, in a COVID year. So I was I was teammates with Trevor Cox there, and we used to joke around about it. I think for as bad as COVID was with everything being shut down, I think it's the only way we made it through that full season in DEFA because we just knew that nobody else could do anything either. So we kind of just were like, well, if we're gonna be stuck somewhere, we might as well be stuck in this shithole. Um, and ended up having a great year um and it all started, the pieces started to kind of come together, and um I was able to get signed up with with Poprad, who um had swept us in the first round. We kind of, the imports, we were really close in DEPA, and um we were able to kind of bond over the shit sandwiches that we're kind of getting thrown at, like buying your own laces in the vending machine, because the owner just didn't want to buy his laces. Like little things like that. It's just you kind of can bond over that, and we ended up getting the team to the playoffs for the first time in the league, and it was just like a really cool thing to be a part of. But then ended up getting signed up with the team that ended up losing in the finals, Pope Rod, and that was kind of like the next step. And then I was able to use that and had another great year, and was able to get linked up in the Czech, which um, is no joke of a league. I think it's one of the best in the world, and to kind of reach that as the pinnacle, like looking back on it, you know, I played some pretty damn good hockey.
What was it like then for you? Like, because you said that your brother had a different pathway to you, and you're now River, the older brother, who's forging his own little world over here in Europe. Um, how did you feel? How did you feel as a young man then? Like, making your way, and then you're playing some good hockey. You're finding yourself, I guess, River. You're finding who you are.
Yeah. Um, and that was kind of when um, I really had to kind of look at myself in the mirror and kind of see where the trajectory of my life was at. And it was kind of like the first time where um, I was it was very adamant that I was kind of living two lives. One being the hockey player, and the other one um, fighting the battle of addiction, and working through a gambling issue during that time. And like I said, going out and playing great hockey and achieving a lot on the ice, but then in the shadows, just like dying inside. And it was like the first time in my life where I had to look in the mirror and kind of really assess where I was at, um, and and do and find what makes me happy. Because if you kind of just looked at my life as a from the outside looking in, You'd think it's a pretty comfy, cushy, not a lot of adversity life, but um, I've had my fair share of battles, and I'm not afraid to talk about them.
You mentioned, that first team you played for in Slovakia with 8,000 people, and you kind of forging your way. And I imagine like it's great on the outside. Again, I'm playing in Europe, but I think a lot of guys who have played, moving from North America to, let's say, I'll use the UK as an example, but maybe moving up to somewhere where the sun isn't out a lot, is raining, it's not a lot to do. As an import, you've come in, you're rooming with a couple of other guys. You don't have like your immediate family around. You're on the ice maybe early in the morning, and then you got the rest of the afternoon to kind of kick around and do what you want. And was that one of the reasons maybe why you started looking for exterior stuff? Was it the actual place that you were in, or
Yeah,
was it? Yeah.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think obviously being locked up in an apartment in a village, with the invention of online sports betting, it can be a dangerous place for somebody that loves that thrill, that chases that high of scoring a big goal on a game or making a big hit in a big moment. That chasing that feeling where you're the man, and this ego, it's so ego driven. And it was easy for me at the time to just look at sports and pick a side, and when it won, be like, wow, I'm an expert in tennis. Who would have thought? And made it really easy to isolate. And like most gambling stories, the wins only last for so long. And then you start chasing those wins, and then next thing you know, you find yourself in a deep, dark hole.
And once you moved teams, you moved outside of, you moved to bigger towns. The gambling still followed you. So what was it? Now it's not just about where you are; it's about you moving places and your problems still following you. How did it manifest? Why? What was it like when you put down a bet? How did it feel?
Looking back on it, it was the biggest adrenaline rush um, that I could get. And it was almost numbing into the sense where I would stay up. Like I said, the fact that I was playing good hockey is a miracle, because there'd be nights where I didn't even go to sleep. Um, I'd be up until 5 o'clock in the morning, um, placing massive wagers, and literally sweating out anything that could be bet on. And that's a scary place to be in. And then then showing up to the rink 2 hours later, and trying to perform at a high level, like, it puts a lot of stress on you, on your mental. And um, like I said, the fact that it was going well um, almost gave me a sense of guilt, because if you just looked at the situation, nobody knew about what I was going through financially and the gambling and how bad it was getting. And um, I was so good at hiding it. And it was almost like the rink, I like almost forgot my issues at the door, and it gave me a space to just like forget about the shit that I was about to deal with the minute I got out of my gear, and opening up my betting account and seeing that I'm down $2,000. And okay, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get $2,000 back to get this back to even? Now times that by a couple months,
Mm.
you're looking at $20,000, and I'm only making 35. Like, things are gonna start getting dicey. Um, and then I came home, and eventually just kind of broke down after another consecutive week of losing bad, and then went to rehab right away, and did a 30 day inpatient rehab treatment center in Minnesota.
And I know you haven't had a bet since, so congratulations on that.
Haven't had a bet since. Even
And
even the little things like a rock, paper, scissors for a cook. I'm pretty good. And then even that, like I remember like looking back at that, freaking out, being like, wow, how I was a big like cards player in the back of the bus with the guys. Like I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to play Schnarps. I'm not gonna be able to play euchre. Like, what am I gonna do on these bus trips? Everyone's gonna think I'm a fucking loser.
Mhm.
And then you realize that no one gives a shit.
Yeah. Then
You
so
realize no
River,
one cares.
River, I want to get into I'm proud of you, man, for reaching out for help. Our second period is coming to a close, but we're going to extend it. This is the beauty of this, is because we got to know your time in Cardiff, because this is your last full season of hockey, your pro career so far in Cardiff. Tell me about that.
Cardiff is the most amazing place for a player to play. If you're fortunate enough that they come calling, um, I recommend that you take it the professionalism, from the ownership to the front office to the equipment manager to the rink staff. Like it's hands down the best I've been treated in my
Hmm.
professional career, and that's even in the East Coast, like flying flying to Scotland and Ireland for these games, and just making sure that we have everything and all the tools to win hockey games and bring championships. And it's unfortunate that Sheffield was unbeatable this year because there's obviously, when you look back, it's really easy to look at a couple moments where um, we kind of let things slip, and that's why I think just the regular season trophy in the UK League is so hard to win, because it's 50 some games of just consistency. And when you're trying to chase a team that doesn't lose, like I think I was getting a little lost of how good of a season we were having because of how good Sheffield was. Like I remember like halfway through Sheffield was running away with it, and I was like, I wonder like what's like the going rate for like win percentage. And I think any year we would have been a champion, but we ran into a team with an 80, high 80 win percentage, and it's crazy. But they had a great team, and you took the cap to them. It was like, and it was there too where um, I was able to meet you, and you helped save my life, part two.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Let's just say your pro career has either come to an end or a timeout. What is your highlights? Give me the quick. Second period's over. Ben's looking at me. Uh, um,
I think I think
give
I
me your
think
highlights of playing pro hockey, River.
I think two and ones in the intro video, scoring my first overtime winner in the 3-on-3 in my rookie year. Um, I mean, I think if anybody's listening to this that's seen me play, like it's kind of a it's kind of a one-off in my career of of like beating somebody one-on-one. So I'm obviously like fired up about that one. And then the other big one would have been a man of the match in against Berlin in the Champions League, where I had a goal and an assist in the group stage. And then we ended up winning the group because of the game. Um, and we ended up edging out for Lunda and of the Swedish league in for the first seed. So just being able to have a hand in that, and to be able to compete to compete in the greatest league and honor that you can have in Europe. The only instance where teams across countries are really playing each other, and to be man of the match of that game was really special for me because of a lot of things. Like obviously I had just gone through my getting clean from gambling, and I had at that time I was about 6, 7 months clean of gambling. So um and hockey wasn't going great in Czech. The coaching staff didn't really like Riv and his playing ability. So they kind of had written me off pretty early, and um I was lacking opportunity and to just kind of have like a breakout game. It was just like a big relief for me because to be able to contribute at that high of a level, it kind of was reassuring to me that I belong, because it's really easy to get down on yourself when the coaches are constantly telling you that you suck. Um, via translation with a teammate because they don't speak English. And so it's really easy to like just like get lost in the rabbit hole of of just dealing with a shitty situation and dealing with a team that wants to make your life hell so that you leave and they don't fire you, because if they fire you, they got to pay you out. And if you leave, then they don't owe you any money. So how bad can we make it? That's enough of my sob story, but um,
We're meant to be ending the second period on a high, dude.
yeah, but okay, so yeah, so to score that goal was very,
Yeah,
it was just
yeah,
it's just weight off the chest that I can, just the pure level of excitement that I had was unmatched.
beautiful. Okay, end of the second period. And River, I'm gonna go straight into the third, man. Because it's funny that you were playing in Cardiff halfway through the season when you and I were first introduced to each other. So you're still full on pro hockey player, and yet part of your other life begins
Yeah.
because of the journey that you are on now on. So let's just tell people how we met. You want to
Yeah.
tell you tell the story.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, um, things were getting pretty grim in my life. Um, Mentally, I was just in a hole where I thought I could never, that I couldn't climb out of. And I was fortunate enough where the people in the office, in the front office and the coaching staff kind of realized that there was something going on with me behind the scenes. And Pete had me reach out to Nick, and Nick was just a friendly ear to just listen and not pass any judgment and just kind of listen to see what's been bothering me. And um, that's how we met and started this kind of online relationship for about a month, where we kind of started looking at the relationships in my life, started looking at healthy habits, and the beginnings of living a sober life, um, and not drinking anymore. And that went on for about a month, and I think it was good at the time, but not having that face-to-face um, interaction and meeting really, it helped, it shielded me because it allowed me to not be completely honest with Nick. Kind of was able to paint the picture of how I wanted it, which was I wanted to tell him that, obviously impress him that I was on the right path. And it was easy to kind of stretch the truth for, to say I don't think I ever lied to you, Nick, but I think I kind of exaggerated kind
Mm-hmm.
of some things, and obviously downplayed some things I didn't really want to address, but then and overplayed things that I knew I could talk about. Um, and then it wasn't until January 2nd where I called you and said, "Is it possible I could come out?" Actually, no, it was you that said, "Why don't you come out to check, and I'll put you up." And you have a wonderful getaway spot in beautiful Zlin.
Yeah.
Um, and I took a chance and spent my $52 on my EasyJet flight and flew into Berto, and you were there to pick me up, and our journey began into, um, obviously we're AA, Alcoholics Anonymous based recovery program, and um, obviously there's people that are sober that don't have programs, and that works for them, but just for what works for us is a program. And you started working, taking me through the steps, which kind of dating back to about 2 years ago with the whole gambling, is something that I was familiar with, but obviously I had deviated from my program, and that's something that I had to look in the mirror. And when about 6 months of clean of gambling, I kind of said, "Oh, I got this beat." I stopped going to meetings, stopped going to therapy, stopped kind of talking, and fast forward 18 months and you got a drinking problem on your hands. It's a stern reminder that a program is something that I need, and meetings is something that I need, and platforms to talk openly and honestly are something that I need because it reminds me of what my purpose is, and I think that's something that I lost along the way. Um, and drinking and gambling and drugs were all a way for me to kind of mask the pain, and not address the issues that I've been dealing with as a grown up. And everybody's got their own battles, and I just turned to substance abuse to solve those problems. And so it's really been like a 3-4 year journey through addiction. And not to say that every day's a walk in the park today. Still very early in sobriety, still making mistakes and still learning from mistakes and still trying to grow as a sober person. And I just try to remind myself that I'm after progress, not perfection, because hockey is me as a player, at least, I was very perfectionist. And hockey is a game of mistakes, so it's kind of really hard to be perfect at something where you make mistakes a lot. So that's kind of been a definite change, trying to constant change of mindset of being able to just like kind of let go and kind of and have a plan, but not be so rigid in the plan, I guess.
Like as this podcast develops, the purpose of this third period is to talk about repurpose. And again, I don't want to say you've retired from hockey, because you haven't retired from hockey. I know that you're looking at options, as Rymsha is, as 27, almost 28-year-old man who, is where you are in your recovery and your journey. And I say that we met at this transitional point where, when I was ending my career, there was no transition. I didn't have a purpose. And you've overlapped where you've now, discovered some purpose while you were still playing, which is that you, River, are perfectly designed to help another person with your story. And that is, you've got that gift for the rest of your life, and that people are going to hear your story. People are going to reach out to you the way you reached out to me, because that's how this stuff works, because they're going to be relatable. And what I would like guys and gals to know about is that, what was it like going back to, when you're playing pro hockey in Slovakia, and some might say, oh yeah, village was 8,000, it was cold, it was damp, he didn't have anything to do, it was COVID. Of course he's going to look for something. But the thing with gambling is you can't smell it on your breath. But it's giving you putting that bet for someone like you and me is different than putting another person putting a bet down for fun. We're getting some relief from it because of this interior disconnection that we have from ourselves, where we're looking for a connection. And we'll find it, first of all, in a bet. It's harmless. I can't smell anything. Then the consequences start getting really, really bad. And it's like, oh shit, I have a problem with this. It's no longer serving me the way it used to serve me. And you reach out for some help, but then that you go, oh, do you know what? No, I'm not really connected still, even though I don't gamble, but I can have a drink, because that gives me the same ease and comfort as putting a bet did. And then we know, for guys like you and me, what happens when we take a drink. And it's not with everybody, is it? Like, not everybody, once you have a beer or two, can go home. But what happens when guys like you and me take a drink?
Can't stop.
It's game on, right?
And I think we have obviously different stories. I think what was the most alarming thing that I saw in my drinking habits was the depression in between binges. Getting really fucking excited to have some beers after the game on a Sunday, knowing that it was an off day Monday and that I could blow the doors off. And then feeling and then kind of going through the motions until that Wednesday, maybe we can have a couple, and just taking it too far and have those couple being too many. And just kind of like I said, going through the motions, just waiting for the next moment where it was at least somewhat socially respectable to have a drink. Um, and then that even progressed to sneaking away and drinking on my own, whether that be in the room or it's at a little pub up the road from my house. Because you didn't want the rep of being the team drunk anymore. So instead of eliminating drinking, which any not sick person would do, a person who's dealing with addiction is going to start hiding it and covering it up and um, being secretive and sneaky and um, then that's when you get in trouble because I was looking for people on the team to be like, wow, or like I've noticed that when we have like team stuff, like you're not the drunkest one at the party anymore, or you didn't have some beers after the game. Like we see that you're making some changes, but in reality, um, I was having those beers in my room with the door closed. Um, I was telling my roommate that I was um, just going out to hang out with some people, but really I was walking to the pub down the road um, and drinking alone there. And that's kind of when having the experience with gambling and my horror stories of addiction are definitely more gambling associated than drinking. Not to downplay anything with my drinking and that fight. Um, but I when it came to asking for help, I was not to say that it was easy to ask for help, but I was much more willing to ask for help because I knew what a rock bottom had looked like um, before in my life. And I knew that that was something that I definitely didn't want to go down that road. And I had already financially ruined my life. I didn't want to physically ruin my life as well. And so that's when it was kind of that time to take a look in the mirror and really be like, what kind of person do you want to be? And sober is when I'm at my best. And not to say that I'm perfect now. Like I said, I still make a lot of mistakes. I'm not perfect in the things that I do, and but that just comes back to I'm after progress, not perfection, and working on if I make a mistake or if I do something wrong that I know is wrong, um, to, you know, not beat myself up continuously, acknowledge the mistake, but fix the mistake. Don't just dwell on the mistake.
And it's something that we have to always be on guard with is this idea of trying to control everything. And I think that's why I'm impressed with you because you speak maturely of I'm not going to be perfect. And I think the danger for guys like you and me is when we try to make things perfect through in our sobriety, and that's when the ego starts growing back. And it's like I'm going to control the situation. I'm sober now. Watch me do my best here. It's going to be the best. Like my story with trying to be a stepdad, right? I'm going to be the best stepdad ever. These kids are going to be like the golden child because I'm going to come in and I go crazy. Like I've hurt myself. Like I've hurt the board, like not physically, but because of this idea that I can control everything. And I think this stems again from addictions. I mean, this is trauma-based response to life is I'm going to try to control everything rather than taking the approach of like you say is like it's progress, not perfection, letting go, just trying to be guided. And that is a process that now guys like you and me are on for the rest of our lives. And I'm happy to be, on that journey because like you said, there's ups and downs and we're never going to be perfect. It's how we ride those ups and downs is the people, the gentlemen, the kind, the people who can be of service and help people. That kind of man that we want to be. Now, this journey started for you, like it started for you, when you recognized that you needed help with gambling. But like, what was that? and you said it was easier for you to ask for help with your problems with alcohol use, but what was that like, that moment, for when you reached out for help? How did you feel when you, like, as a guy who's playing at the top level in the UK, you know, people around you are starting to see, oh, River's got some challenges here, enough for them to reach out. How did you inwardly reflect to go, this is time to ask for help? And what did it feel like when you finally were like, help me to somebody?
I definitely think it was a weird time. I remember where I was like partially admitting that I was having some issues with it, but then like I said, not really taking any action to like make it any different. But I was still very like I know I'm messing up, like very like apologetic, and it wasn't until we ended up talking in the morning, and you had suggested that I come out. Um, Obviously, I think that that was kind of a tug from you and your direction to get some physical help. And I think it was also a combination of me being receptive and in that frame of mind to want help. So I think when I say like I came asking for help, I don't think that's necessarily true. I was definitely I was making it aware that I was willing to take more extensive action to kind of address this. And it wasn't until you kind of had said, do you want to come out to check? Where I was like, yes. And then having a conversation with Pete, um, you know, my job was on the line, and um, I'm extremely grateful for Pete for not letting me go, because he had every justification to fire me if he wanted to. But he gave me a chance to better my life, and that's when I went on the injured reserve for that month, and um, and that gave me the ability to not worry about hockey for the first time, and everything. I mean, like everything has its consequences. You know, that month went, I forfeited my salary for that month. I think because I wasn't playing, so there wasn't really there was really no reason for me to be making money, and I respect it. I respect the hell out of Cardiff too for supporting me, and but like I said, still like having consequences because what I did and how I behaved wasn't professional, um and like I said, the fact that they weren't firing me was a blessing in my eyes, and it let me have those first 30 days, and I think what was it, 5 or 6 spent in check.
It was like five. It was 5 days in total, like 2 travel days and three
Yeah,
full days of work. And
so 5 days, and then the rest of the month to kind of just focus on that first month of my sobriety. And um, like I said, I'm forever grateful for them for, because I think I've had a lot of time to kind of reflect on this, and just looking at my hockey career, and it's just the truth that 75% of it's plagued by addiction in some sense. And it can be really easy for me to kind of like look at hockey and look at and blame that lifestyle and blame that environment. It's like and blame hockey and be like, that was because I was playing hockey that I had a gambling problem and that I had a drinking problem. If I'd never played hockey, that wouldn't happen. But I choose to look at hockey in the way that it helped me figure out that this is what I needed in my life. Um, I never would have been in any of these situations. And it's just all been a part of the plan, and it's been a part of the journey. Hockey's given me my sobriety, and um, then that's one of the greatest gifts that hockey could ever give me.
beautiful. I want to say January 1st is your sobriety date. You January 2nd. January 2nd. I thought it was January 1st. Um, it's like, how many months is that? 5, 6 months?
6.
6 months, yeah. You did your brother's wedding.
Yep.
You moved to two cities, Calgary and back home.
Yep.
You're you're now you're getting some news about a career,
Yep.
and at no point you've had a drink of alcohol.
No.
Now, for guys like you and me, River, that I think is a miracle. I think it's awesome. I know how hard you work at this, and I know you're going to continue to work at it because you know that it's something that we need to work on for the rest of our lives. I do have to tip my hat to Pete Russell and to Todd Kalman for giving you the opportunity to take that month to not just get sober, but to build this platform where you're going to build your life. And I think that we can sit there and pump the tires of the Cardiff Devils a lot, but we have to. They've given you, a platform where you're going to use this experience to, like we said, ultimately help other people. But you did it while playing, the top league in the UK. You confronted your biggest demon at the time, which was your alcohol use. You reached out for help. You came to check, on your own dime, and you worked hard at your sobriety, where you've now started to put pieces of this not a puzzle, but things are starting to come in your way. Where I want to say you've had good news, but I don't want to say anything that isn't true yet. But because I know you're looking for work, and I know you're waiting for something, but I don't know if that's happened yet. I think it's today or tomorrow that or this week.
Hopefully this week. Yeah.
This week, right? So let's not say anything because this podcast is going to be out by then anyway. But you're looking for a career, but yet whatever career path that is, have you discovered purpose in your sobriety?
Yeah, big time. I mean, I think that's a big reason why I've kind of sorted to start this transition out of hockey. Just somebody that's given 100% to everything his entire life, and for me, those two things being hockey and school, um, and then ultimately being the man that I want to be today is also a goal. And just kind of looking at that, and I lost my train of thought. You're gonna have to cut this one.
That's the end of the third period. But I'm going to go straight to overtime, okay? That's the end of the third. All right. I'm going to go straight to overtime. It's just one question. River Rymsha, looking back at everything you've talked about, growing up in a hockey family, having an elite player pathway, younger brother, going through like having that around your life, um, messing around in the Joe Louis Arena, like hockey's woven into the fabric of who you are. Then you embarking as your own man into this world of pro hockey in Europe, um, looking for exterior to fill an interior, um, ultimately moving to another exterior and another substance to still fill that hole inside. And then to you ultimately being where you are now, where that hole has been filled by a purpose of sobriety and helping people. And just that last thing you said in the third period is like the man that you want to be. And honestly, River, I want that. I want to know where you stand right now at your age, right? Everything you've been through. What kind of man do you want to be?
I want to be an honest, humble, compassionate person. And I just want to just be able to project that energy to everybody in my life that I have a relationship with and that I'll have future relationships with.
Why compassion, humility, honesty?
Because I think they're pillars of what a good character in life kind of looks like. And I think if you have those three pillars, whether that be in your personal life, your work life, your spiritual life, whatever it may be, if you can carry around those three things, I think there's not a lot can stop you.
Where do you see those? You're still like a young man, with this world ahead of you, with this idea of compassion, humility, and honesty is the core of who you are. how does it feel knowing that you might not put on the skates again and be in that environment? That you're embarking on a career that's going to be very much, I would say, corporate setting. Um, how does that feel to you, knowing that those changing rooms? Like I've been in that changing room with you in Cardiff. How are those three pillars going to carry you through? And have you even thought about what you're going to be missing in those changing rooms?
I think yes. I think we joke around about it because I've obviously been filling in some of my old teammates of what's been going on, and obviously like joking around because I was like just been talking because obviously in this day and age, there's remote jobs, there's hybrid jobs, there's in-office jobs, and then we're just sounds like yeah, like I want to be in the office as much as I can, and they're like yeah, me too, because it was just like it's the closest thing you can get to a locker room without being in a locker room is sitting in an office with a bunch of people because you can just go around and yuck it up as if it was and treat it like a dry stall and kind of leads into like I was like yeah like I'm ready to talk to the to whoever hires me like we gotta get some showers in there, we gotta get some team rinses going, like we gotta get some showers going, like that's the only way we're gonna like get this ball rolling, like come on, like who wants a shower?
Maybe don't start with that, dude.
No, we gotta work our
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's kind of like it's taking aspects of that the locker room that you miss. Obviously, I'm not going to be trying to implement office-wide showers. I'm joking. But just taking the beauty of a locker room and just evolving it and it's just it's kind of mindset. It's like okay, I'm leaving one dressing room for another dressing room. The only difference is I'm going to be in a golf shirt or a dress shirt instead of my gitch. I'm still going to have the coffee and the chew. I'm just going to be in different clothes. And there might be a laptop in front of me instead of a pair of skates.
And remember, River, as we wrap this up, that again, like before you hung them up, and again, we don't even know if you might still have another season in you somewhere. But I said it earlier, is that you are perfectly designed to help somebody who is in those moments of putting a bet on for a sense of relief rather than just for fun, or sneaking away for a drink for that sense of relief. The consequences might not be that bad yet, but if you're hearing River's story, and it resonates with you, then these are the times and these are the people that you can actually reach out to, because your story is raw and it's real. And you as a person are full of compassion. You're learning about humility, because we're always learning about humility and honesty. And all those three pillars are going to carry you very far, my friend. And I'm very grateful that you've come on here. Episode 1 of Stick Together. You and I, my friend, are going to always be sticking together for the rest of our lives. I'm grateful that you're in my life, buddy. I'm grateful you do what you do, and never forget that work ethic that I saw in you knuckling down and you doing the work, because I'll never, ever forget that, buddy.
I appreciate it. And so great. Started it off hot on EP1. But no, I'm blessed to be able to come on, and I'm blessed that you're in my life. And it's a friendship that I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life.
River Rymsha, thank you so much for joining us on Stick Together, episode 1. From myself and Ben, we're signing off now. Until episode 2, bye for now.